Sonic 1, the predecessor of all Sonic games. Sonic Advance, the first entry in the Sonic Advance series. The Genesis Trilogy and Advance Trilogy are both seen as great series in the Sonic franchise and are both similar in some ways. Some see Sonic Advance as the true sequel to the Genesis games. But I'm curious to see which trilogy is really better. So today, I'm pitting the first entries in both series together to determine which one is better. This Versus series is based on my opinion of the games after playing through them. Again, my opinion. Admittedly, I will say this is my first time fully completing both games. I've played both games before in the past, but this is my first time playing through both of them fully, so trust me, there is no nostalgic bias here. In the comment section below, you can let me know which game you enjoyed better, but without further ado, let's just get into the meat and bones of today's video, Sonic 1 on the Genesis versus Sonic Advance for the game. Gameplay has always been a very important thing in Sonic games. In fact, for most Sonic games, gameplay is the factor that determines whether it's a good game or a bad game. And for Sonic Genesis, or Sonic 1 I should say, the game is centered around platforming with a good sense of speed spread throughout. The main plot of this game is obviously to platform, but speed is given to you more as a bonus, and sometimes you're able to go fast through each stage. Controls are simple, literally. You run and you jump. That's it. The controls cannot get any simpler than that. In this game, however, items and objects halt your movement. And honestly, I was not a big fan of that because sometimes I'd be running fast and then bam, I run right into a spring. And instead of propping right up, I have to jump on top of the spring to go up. And that honestly felt like more of an annoyance to me than something that should be there. So I wasn't too happy about that. But other than that, Sonic is very easily controllable and he's not very slippery. Many times I felt like I had good control over Sonic and I didn't feel like he was gonna fly all over the place. But them invincibility frames though, y'all could have made them a little bit longer, okay? Y'all could have made them a little bit longer. As far as Sonic Advance goes, there's a lot more platforming than I remembered and than I expected. I had this game lined up with the other Sonic Advance games, the other Trilogy games I should say, and I had it thinking that it was going to be majority just speed and then some platforming here and there. But this game is a lot more platforming heavy than I remembered. It's actually very reminiscent of Sonic 1. The items and objects in springs halt your movement, and there's simple controls. There's like also this weird like lunge function, like Sonic, you know, he has a normal jump, Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide, and Amy has her hammer. But there's like this weird lunge function that Sonic has that I honestly was not able to figure out how to do. Not that I really needed it at any point in the game except for like at the very end, but I mean there is that function. But for the most part you can get through majority of this game with just running and jumping. The only nitpicks I have about this game is that Sonic has slow to start speed. And honestly he might not be that slow to start, but just the animation that he has when he's starting to get fast just makes it look like he's moving slower. Honestly, it was tough for me to say, however, that one playstyle was better than the other. I truly enjoyed both, and for that reason, I'm splitting the points this round. Zones. Arguably one of the other most important things about a Sonic game. After the gameplay, people want good zones, good level design, something that will make them come back to play the game again. In Sonic Genesis, we have Green Hill. Jokes aside though, even though Green Hill is receiving a lot of hate right now, this is Green Hill in its purest form, where it originally came from, and it's honestly really satisfying to be able to play. As far as the other zones go, they got more progressively difficult as the game went on, and they're pretty memorable, some for good reasons and some for not so good reasons, but the stage design is good for the most part up until Labyrinth Zone. But even that zone seems like child's play when you get to Scrap Brain Zone, which should be called Target Sonic Zone because that's what I felt as I continued to play through that zone. I literally, I felt like many times I did not want to continue to play during that zone because it cheaply would injure you and have a bottomless pit here. Oh, spikes, and again, their invincibility frames aren't that great, so if you get hit, you better get them rings quick before you get hit again by something you don't even see coming. But even with that, they are memorable, and again, some stages are memorable for the right reason, but some stages, like Scrap Brain Zone, are memorable for the wrong reason. In Sonic Advance, there are 6 normal zones, 7 if you count Cosmic Angel, but Cosmic Angel is technically its own zone, and 2 special zones. Look, the zones for this game are playable and they're fun at times, but they're not really memorable. They all kind of follow the typical Sonic mode. There's a Green Hill type stage, a Casino type stage, an Ice type stage, a Temple type stage, Look, you see what I'm getting at here. And the music really doesn't help these zones cases either. They're catchy songs, but they're not songs that you go back and listen to. And considering that's one of the main things that the Sonic franchise is known for, having songs that you go back and listen to, the fact that this game couldn't really produce any songs that made me want to go back and listen to them is not a good thing. Also, with the level design, it's very awkward at times because sometimes the games want you to venture left instead of right in order to progress further in the level. Sometimes it's like a multiple pathway kind of thing where you can go right or left, but for some reason in some stages you need to go left, which typically you usually go right, so it was just weird for me to have to go back left in order to go farther in the stage. That, and for the most part, the zones are pretty easy for the most part until you get to Egg Rocket Zone. Then the difficulty jumps out of nowhere, so be ready for that if you ever decide to play the game on your own. But with less memorable stages and somewhat awkward level design, it's tough for me to award this point to Sonic Advance. So, Sonic 1 gets the point here. Bosses to me in Sonic games are usually more of an annoyance than a pleasure. I usually am not very fond of bosses, and I see it just as a way to progress the story or to progress the game. I mean, you have to have a test of strength at some point. In Sonic Advance, the bosses are at the end of Act 2. For the most part, the bosses are pretty simple and easy, yet for some reason, I kept having trouble with Egg Ice Climber and Metal Knuckles. Or Robot Knuckles. Cosmic Knuckles, you know what, it don't matter, fake Knuckles. But even in retrospect, they were pretty easy. You can even cheese your way through the final boss by literally getting hit, getting your ring back, and hitting the boss, and continuing that process until you complete the number of hits that you need in order to beat the boss. These bosses are forgettable though, and none of them really stick out except maybe Fake Knuckles, but that's pushing it. However, I will give them a point for trying to be unique with each different boss. The Sonic Genesis bosses are found at the end of Act 3 for every zone. The bosses in this game, especially early on, are laughable. Literally until the final boss. I mean, bruh, there's no stress put on you like when you're playing those bosses. Even the last boss isn't too stressful. Honestly, the bosses in that game aren't that memorable either. I mean, they may be on a nostalgic level for a lot of people, but personally, I don't think they're that great. I mean, they're pretty bland, and on top of that, they're pretty easy, which is not a bad thing because it helps you progress the game faster. But I mean, some people like tough bosses. Not really me, but it's kind of a factor that you have to add in. It's the first game, so what can you do? I mean, you shouldn't expect the bosses to be over the top, but that doesn't mean it's going to get a pass just because it's the first game. Even though in both games, the bosses weren't very memorable for me, the Sonic Advance bosses did try uniqueness, and each boss was different and had a unique way to take them out. So for that, I will say that the bosses were more unique, so points to Sonic Advance. Special stages. They can really help make or break a Sonic games many times, especially when you need those emeralds to access the last story. In Sonic Advance, special stages are triggered by finding a special spring found in each Act 2, except for Ice Mountain Zone, which has one per act, and there are 7 emeralds altogether. And these stages act like Sonic Adventure 2 skating sections, except with skydiving added. It's like the skydiver version. Well, it's sky surfing. Look, puns aside, these stages are not easy, okay? The depth perception on them is absolute trash. Half the time I be thinking I'm gonna get the coins, right? Then bam, I dive right by them without scooping a single one. In theory, it was a cool concept. I enjoyed the idea of sky surfing to get coins. But the best concept probably was not to add it on the Game Boy Advance. The execution ended up being bad. Real bad. Not to mention that if you fail, you must restart the whole stage over just to get back to that point. And later in the stages in the game, when the stages become more difficult, that's really seen as more of an annoyance rather than something that I consider fair. It's not very fair. It's really annoying, considering you need to get all of the emeralds to access that last zone. Yeah, it's tragic. As far as the special stages in Sonic Genesis go, they are triggered by having 50 rings at the end of each stage, and then you jump into this giant ring which takes you to the special zone. Except for Scrap Brain Zone, I will note, which has no giant ring. Don't know why, it just doesn't. But there are 6 emeralds overall which you need to collect. These stages are simple. The room rotates and you must maneuver until you find the Chaos Emerald. As the game goes on, the difficulty increases with each emerald that you need to get, but I mean, the concept is easy to understand. The difference here is that the successive giant rings will take you to the next special stage regardless of if you collected the emerald in the prior stage. So if you complete Act 1 with 50 rings and you go into the giant ring and you don't collect the emerald, and you go into Act 2 thinking you're going to try to collect Emerald 1 again, no, you're collecting Emerald 2 this time. The ordering is weird in my opinion, but I mean, I don't really see it as being that big of a deal. It's just kind of odd. In that sense, it's weird. But these stages are undoubtedly easier, less stressful, and easier to understand, comprehend, and play through than Sonic Advance's special stages. So it's no doubt in my mind that Sonic 1 deserves the point here. In a 3-2 victory, Sonic 1 on the Genesis takes the cake over Sonic Advance on the Game Boy. Truth be told, I really did enjoy both games, Sonic Advance and Sonic 1 equally. These games are a lot more alike than I thought. Obviously they're different aesthetically and they don't play the exact same, but they do share a decent amount of similarities. But once I started looking further into the categories for this video, I felt like Sonic 1 completed this task a little bit better before Sonic Advance did, but not by much. I mean, you can find enjoyment in both games, and if you haven't played either game, then I recommend that you give them a go. Both games are fun, and both games are enjoyable. There's nothing holding you back from playing both games, so you might as well download them and play them yourself. I recommend both games here. But Sonic 1 is the winner for today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by leaving a like, and in the comment section below, let me know which game you enjoyed more, Sonic 1 or Sonic Advance, or if you haven't played Sonic Advance or Sonic 1, you can say that as well. Just let me know, man. If you enjoyed, do not forget to hit that like button. Subscribe for more content on this channel, right? On this channel. Yeah. Subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to share this video, share the channel, all that good fun stuff. Let me know what you thought about this in the comment section below. Other than that, though, I'm out. Goodbye. Peace. And let's get a little preview for the next verses.